And the Giants take 2 out of 3 from the Baltimore Orioles. They take 5 out of 6 on this homestand.
We are back. Good morning, folks, and welcome into Giants Warm-Up. Kerry, Crowley getting you set for Giants baseball on the radio. The San Francisco Giants, winners of 7 of their last 8 ball games, looking to get back to 500 this afternoon at Coors Field in Denver. Kai Tang takes the mound for San Francisco. Carson Whisenhunt placed on the injured list yesterday with a back strain, which means that Tang has been called up from AAA Sacramento to make a spot start. He's opposed by Chase Dollander, hot prospect for the Colorado Rockies, who struggled at the outset of his major league career, but he has the good stuff to keep the Giants' offense at bay. And it's an offense that over the last week has shown significant signs of life. The Giants win 15-8 on Friday night over the Baltimore Orioles. They do get blown out on Saturday afternoon, 11-1 loss at Oracle Park, but they come back on Sunday and score early and score often, a 13-2 win over the Orioles. Rafael Devers got the scoring going early. He hit home run number 28 on the season, his 13th in a San Francisco Giants uniform since coming over in that trade from the Boston Red Sox in the middle of June. And Giants offense never looked back after Devers' first inning home run. 2 in the third inning, 4 in the fourth, 3 in the sixth, 3 in the eighth. The Orioles tacked on 2 late against the San Francisco Giants, but Spencer Rivens closed it out for this ball club. 3 innings in relief behind Justin Verlander, who threw 5 scoreless innings. Needed 121 pitches to do it, but Verlander picks up career win number 265. An incredibly impressive outing for the 42-year-old right-hander who's improved to 3-10 on the season. He thought by now he'd be in the double digits, have about 10 wins, 12 wins at that point in the season, but nevertheless, Verlander happy to pick up 2 wins on the homestand. He started on Tuesday night in a win over the Chicago Cubs, and he wraps up one of the Giants' most successful homestands of the season with a victory on Sunday over the Baltimore Orioles. 415-808-KNBR is the number. Would love to hear from you this morning on what you'd like to see from the Giants in the final month of the regular season. Yes, we have reached that point. Today is Monday, September 1st, and it's also Labor Day. Labor Day weekend, a very special weekend throughout the course of each baseball season. We celebrate the men and women who have fought hard for workers' rights in this country, who fought hard for the 40-hour work week, for worker protections, and all of the people who have made so many sacrifices to make sure that you can live a better life. And today I'm thinking of my dad, a longtime labor representative, a union representative in San Francisco, who passed away earlier this year. It's my first Labor Day without him, and he sure loved this weekend. He sure loved the fact that we would do shows on Labor Day, that we'd get Giants baseball on Labor Day, that's the start of the NFL season coming up soon. And thinking of him and the good folks at Local 119, who he represented, the camera folks, the camera operators, the production team, and all the folks who work in the broadcast trucks down for NBC Sports Bay Area, for ESPN, for all the local broadcasts, bringing you live Giants baseball, live Golden State Warriors basketball, and live sports around the Bay Area. All those folks work so hard to bring us sports on a day-to-day basis, on a week-to-week basis. We're so appreciative of all of their work, and I know that my dad was extremely proud to represent them throughout his career, and so I'm thinking of them today as well as we get you set for Giants baseball right here on the radio. I also want to take a minute and acknowledge our staff here at KNBR who's putting in work behind the scenes. Raf Corral has been with me, not just today, not just yesterday, not just Saturday. Raf's worked just about every day for the last week here on KNBR, working extremely hard behind the scenes to make sure that these shows go off without a hitch. These shows would not be possible without the hard work of our production team, who makes so many sacrifices to get here early, to show up at 7 a.m. on holiday weekends. We've got overnight people working each and every night. You know, overnight Dave is going to be back on shift tomorrow, and we've just got such a great crew who work so hard to make all of these shows possible and to make sure that we can bring you 162 games of Giants baseball throughout the regular season and so much more as we continue to talk sports each and every day and for most hours of the day here at KNBR. So really appreciate everyone on the production team. I know that Kyle Haar's been in all weekend long. Danny Dunn, saw him at some point this weekend. So all the people sacrificing on Labor Day weekend to make sure that we can bring these Giants broadcasts to you, whether they be at Oracle Park or today out at Coors Field in Denver. Really, really appreciative of all the people who put in work behind the scenes, who make sacrifices on these holiday weekends, and who really, really show up for all the folks who want to watch Giants baseball, listen to Giants baseball, and take part in a season that hasn't necessarily unfolded the way that many of us anticipated, but nevertheless, the Giants have given us lots to talk about over the course of the last week. It's a team that enters today's ball game at 68-69 on the season. They're 5 games back of the New York Mets. I insist that they are not part of this playoff picture yet in the National League. If they want to be a part of the playoff picture, I think that they need to hop over the Cincinnati Reds, who sit in front of them in the wildcard standings. I think they need to cut the Mets' lead for that third wildcard spot to about 3 games for this to become serious. But the Giants do have a great opportunity in front of them this week. They've got, obviously, Kai Tang going today against Chase Dollander. If they're able to win today's game in Denver Coors Field against the Rockies, then they've got Logan Webb and Robbie Ray going. The top 2 pitchers in the Giants rotation can set the tone for this ball club. The Rockies hovering right around 100 losses. The Giants, if they take 2 of 3, will send the Rockies into triple digits on the season in early September, which shows you the futility that's gone on in Colorado this season. But a great chance for the Giants to jump right back into this thing ahead of a weekend series against the St. Louis Cardinals squad. Pretty much identical in the standings. Cardinals coming into today's games at 68-70, so a half game behind the San Francisco Giants. They'll see the Cardinals 6 times in the month of September, and they will also see the Arizona Diamondbacks, who come into today's games at 68-70, 6 times in the month of September. So the Giants have not had a winning month in a few months now, really since the month of April. They finish August 14-14, but they do finish August on a high note, and they played particularly well against the Milwaukee Brewers last weekend. It actually started on Friday evening in a loss. That was really a telltale sign the Giants were starting to turn things around. It was a 5-4 defeat against the Milwaukee Brewers. They went out on Saturday, last Saturday, and absolutely took it to Milwaukee in a 7-1 win. They won the series with 9th inning RBIs from Elliot Ramos on Sunday, and then they come back to Oracle Park and become the first team to sweep the Chicago Cubs in a 3-game series this season, with a 5-2 win on Tuesday, a 12-3 dominant win on Wednesday night, and then a 4-3 walk-off win, Jung-Hoo Lee, the hero, on Thursday afternoon. As he turned around a 100-mile-an-hour fastball and yanked it out into right field. Giants won that ball game 4-3. They win 15-8 on Friday night as Dom Smith planted a home run into McCovey Cove, the first splash hit of his career. He talked all about what that moment meant to him, and we'll play that for you later on in this show. They lose 11-1 on Saturday. Christian Koss has to come in and pitch. I addressed that yesterday. Never a good look for a franchise to have a position player pitching 3 times in the same month at home in front of home fans, but nevertheless, that was the case for the San Francisco Giants. But this team needed to rebound in a big way, and they did on Sunday, 13-2. The Giants have now homered in 14 consecutive games as Rafael Devers kept that streak alive with his first inning blast against Sugano and the Baltimore Orioles. So the Giants 68-69, third place in the National League West, trying to get their way back into the mix. They would need a really hot month in the month of September. Probably have to go something like, let's say there's 25 games left, maybe at least 19-6, 20-5 to have a shot at the postseason. The Mets well ahead of the Giants, 5 games clear of them right now. You anticipate that one of the other teams in the mix right now, be it the Reds, who are over 500, be it the Diamondbacks, who are still playing good baseball for manager Torey Lovullo, trying to save his job, or the St. Louis Cardinals, who still have a ton of veteran players in the mix there. You anticipate that one of those teams will go over 500 this month. So at bare minimum, I anticipate it'll take 86 wins, which would mean the Giants would need to go about 18-7 the rest of the way. And they have not shown an ability to do that, but nevertheless, they have played great baseball over the course of the last 8 games. 7 victories during that stretch, and we'll talk about what has led to that success and why it's important for the Giants to build upon the momentum that they've created this week at Oracle Park as they hit the road. Today at Coors Field in Colorado, the pitching staff will be tested. The Giants need great starts on Tuesday and Wednesday from Logan Webb and Robbie Ray, but they really need a tone-setting outing today from Kai Tang, who makes his way back from AAA Sacramento to take the place of Carson Whisenhunt, who, again, yesterday was placed on the injured list with a back strain. So, with that, if you'd like to call in this morning, 415-808-KNBR is the number. We had some great phone calls over the course of the weekend. I also listened to a little bit of extra innings with Bill Lasky, and there was a ton of great calls about the state of the San Francisco Giants, what you would like left to go. Today, we've got a Labor Day matinee, 1:10 p.m. Pacific Time, the first pitch, 2:10 p.m. Mountain Time out in Colorado Coors Field, as it's Kai Tang, Chase Dollander, and a big matchup for the San Francisco Giants, who look to get back to 500 this afternoon right here on Labor Day. So more coming up next. You're listening to KNBR, the sports leader.
2-2 pitch. Swing, and there's a drive into center field. Going way back, Kowser at the warning track. At the wall! Adios! Pelota! A line shot. A laser beam. Straightaway center, and it just would not come down. And the Giants take a 1-0 lead. The 28th home run of the year for Devers.
Giants fans, first pitch isn't too far away as KNBR's Giants warm-up continues on the sports leader.
Oh, we are back. Good morning, folks. Kerry, Crowley hanging out with you, getting you set for Giants baseball on the radio. First pitch coming your way this afternoon, 1:10 p.m. Pacific time, 2:10 local time out in Coors Field. As the Giants look to get back to 500, they're sitting at 68-69 on the season. They've won 7 of their last 8 ball games. They are not yet back in the playoff picture, but a series against the Colorado Rockies sure can help. They take 2 of 3. They would deal the Colorado Rockies their 99th and 100th losses of the season. They sweep the series, which they really need to do. Then they would potentially vault themselves back into a playoff race if the New York Mets falter this week. The Mets have a tough schedule the rest of the way. The Giants have things a little bit easier, but they are playing a bunch of games against teams in the mix. 6 against the St. Louis Cardinals, 6 against the Arizona Diamondbacks, 6 against the Los Angeles Dodgers, who are far more than in the mix. The Dodgers are going to the postseason. So what does that say about this Giants ball club? Well, for much of the summer, it was a disappointing slate. This team could not hit. This team suffered pitching injuries. This team could not field. And this team fell out of the playoff race altogether. A brutal homestand at the end of July ultimately compelled Buster Posey, who was oh so aggressive early in the season, to trade assets away at the deadline. July 31st, the Giants had sent out Tyler Rogers, Camilo Doval, and Mike Yastrzemski, recovered prospects in return, and begun to shift their focus to next season. But one of the most important things that the Giants were hoping to see throughout the month of August was the continued acclamation of superstar Rafael Devers, who came over in the big deal from the Boston Red Sox in the middle of June and almost immediately struggled out of the gates. After the Devers acquisition, for about a month and a half, 2 months, the Giants were the single worst team in Major League Baseball. The White Sox are terrible on an annual basis. The Rockies are headed toward 100 losses. The Pirates can't win on the road if their season depended on it. The Marlins, there are so many teams that have just been out of the race from the beginning of the season. I could go on and on. But it was the San Francisco Giants who, for 2 months after the Devers trade, had the worst record in Major League Baseball. A lot of folks were pointing to Devers as the reason. The Red Sox were getting better. The Giants were getting worse. Devers was discontent in the Red Sox clubhouse. Suddenly, the Giants, who'd had such a great run all season long, had fallen apart. It had to be Devers' fault. I never bought that argument. I never for 1 minute believed that this outstanding left-handed hitter, who seemed so happy to be in San Francisco, was going to be the downfall of this ball club. If you look around, Devers wasn't playing defense when the Giants suddenly lost the ability to field fly balls. Devers wasn't on the mound when the Giants' pitching staff was decimated by injuries. Verlander going out, Landon Roop going down, Hayden Birdsong not injured, but ineffective, had to be sent back to AAA Sacramento, and Kyle Harrison, one of the guys the Giants were counting on this season. Oh, by the way, he was traded to go get Rafael Devers, a deal that I think every general manager in baseball, if they had the payroll flexibility and the ownership sign-off, would do that deal. And you look up at the end of August, and you see a Giants team that's starting to play better baseball, and you see a hitter in Rafael Devers, who certainly looks like he's getting accustomed to playing at Oracle Park. The swings you saw during this homestand against the Cubs and the Orioles suggest that Devers will be just fine. That Devers, who, by the way, during the second half of the season, has a .278 average, a .543 slugging percentage, and a .917 OPS, the Devers is going to lift up the Giants and not bring down the Giants. To me, it was never a question. Buster Posey doesn't make that deal. With Devers having 8.5 years and $250 million plus left on his contract, he isn't absolutely certain that Devers will be a net positive for this team. And while the Giants struggled out of the gates following the Devers acquisition, well, Devers struggled out of the gates. He had some rough swings, a lot of strikeouts, too many whiffs. He has finally figured out how to hit at Oracle Park. He's going the other way with the ball. He's hitting the ball in the air, and he's hitting the ball over the fence, which is all anyone ever thought he would do when the Giants acquired him in that blockbuster trade, the stunning trade in mid-June from the Boston Red Sox. So Devers in a Giants uniform in the second half of the season. 7 doubles, 11 home runs, 25 runs driven in, 22 walks, the ability to get on base, and the ability to be a difference maker. And all the while, Devers has done this with Willy Adames right by his side, doing exactly what the Giants anticipated when they acquired Adames via free agency. At the end of April, Adames was one of the worst qualified hitters in Major League Baseball. He had a .592 OPS. He couldn't figure it out at the plate, and he looked like a bust. But you don't judge a player who signs a 7-year contract based on 1 month in a new environment. Adames has played pretty much all of his Major League career, his home games, indoors with the Tampa Bay Rays and the Milwaukee Brewers. He comes to San Francisco. It's a completely different environment. It's cold out there. It's foggy. The climate is different in San Francisco than it is for outdoor stadiums throughout the rest of the country, let alone the indoor stadiums that Adames has played 50% of his ball games in for the first half of his career. But since the end of April, so the vast majority of the season, Adames has been one of the most qualified shortstops in Major League Baseball, or best qualified shortstops, I should say. 23 home runs over the last 4 months for Willy Adames after hitting just 2 in the month of April. A .234 batting average. The Giants would sure like to see that number come up, but a .323 on-base percentage, that'll play. And perhaps the most encouraging sign, a .458 slug and a .781 OPS. Willy Adames has been great. Since the end of April, since he started to acclimate to Oracle Park and the challenges of playing in San Francisco, Adames has figured this thing out. And oh, by the way, after a rough first month on defense, in a year where I was questioning how long Adames might stick at shortstop for the San Francisco Giants over the duration of this 7-year contract, he has completely flipped the narrative. Adames is playing effective defense. He's manning the position extremely well. He's 10 outs above average on the season if you follow StatCast's defensive metric, and he has become a plus defender for a team that doesn't have too many of those. The Giants have played lackadaisical defense. The Giants have made far too many mistakes, but Willy Adames has not been at the center of any of it. And for the last month, it was Adames, it was Devers, and it was those two players figuring it out. If the Giants are going to do anything in the month of September to carry momentum into 2026, it's got to be their leaders. It's got to be their core players. It's got to be Adames. It's got to be Devers. It's got to be Matt Chapman, Jung-Hoo Lee, and Elliot Ramos figuring out how to win ball games effectively together, limiting mistakes, limiting swings and misses, putting the ball in play, making a lot of contact, hitting a ton of doubles, popping a few over the fence, and aiding this pitching staff that has been decimated by injuries. You know, it's interesting that the Giants went on this run, 7 wins in 8 games, because Landon Roop is out for the season. Carson Wisenhunt is headed to the IL with a back strain. Hayden Birdsong, ineffective, toiling in AAA Sacramento. Kyle Harrison pitching in the Boston Red Sox organization now. All the pitchers who were supposed to save the Giants at the outset of this season, well, they've all kind of disappeared. And yet, on Sunday, Justin Verlander shows up, and at 42 years old, in 5 innings, goes 121 pitches. Verlander was pitching for one thing and one thing only. It was to qualify for the win on a day when his offense finally supported him. He spent the first 2 months of the season toiling, bullpen letting him down, offense giving him no run support, turning in quality starts only to get no decisions and hard luck losses. But Verlander finally broke through on a muggy day in June in Atlanta. In his 17th start of the year, he picked up win number 1, win number 263 in his Major League career. And the last homestand, he picked up 2 more. 264 on Tuesday against the Chicago Cubs and 265 yesterday against the Baltimore Orioles. Justin Verlander had to fight tooth and nail for all 15 outs required of a starting pitcher to qualify for the win, and he did just that. At 42 years old, he's still reaching back and throwing 96, 97 miles an hour, still throwing 4 effective pitches, and still proving that he can inch closer and closer to that 300-win milestone that's out of reach for just about every other pitcher in Major League Baseball. So while much of the summer has been spent focusing on all the negative developments for the San Francisco Giants, the collapse, the downfall, all the reasons this team found itself in the month of August playing for nothing more than pride and a little bit of momentum, there are some positives to take away from this most recent stretch of Giants baseball. Devers and Adames looking more comfortable in San Francisco. That's the key to the next 6 years of Giants baseball. Justin Verlander saving the bullpen, winning games. It's what Buster Posey wanted to see way back when he gave him that 1 year, $15 million deal. And as these young Giants pitchers start to fade, it is interesting to me that at 42 years old, Justin Verlander has emerged as Mr. Reliable. And it begs the question, would the Giants be better off bringing Verlander back next season? Another 1 year deal, trying to win with a guy who in 75, 80% of his starts has kept the team competitive. It's not what you want from a number one or a number two. You want to be competitive about 90, 95% of the time. Robbie Ray and Logan Webb have done that for this team. But Justin Verlander, in my opinion, he'd do a whole lot worse at the back end of your rotation. If Landon Roop comes back healthy, the Giants get any sort of development from a Birdsong or a Wisenhunt, maybe you can plug Justin Verlander back as a number 4 or number 5. And maybe if the offense decides to support him the way that they've done the past 2 ball games, he might inch a heck of a lot closer to that 300-win milestone that he wanted to progress toward for so much of this season. The Giants essentially failed him in that effort. I'm Kerry Crowley. The show is Giants Warm-Up. Would love your thoughts on Justin Verlander, on Willy Adames, on Rafael Devers. When we come back, we'll take a look at scores around Major League Baseball from Sunday's action and how they impact the postseason race right here on KNBR, the sports leader.
Crowd offering its vocal support for Verlander. The right-hander delivers. He struck him out swinging. Change up. And he walks off the mound kind of with a sheepish grin on his face and kind of shaking his head like, oh my Lord, how hard can this be? But the fans appreciate the effort, 5 shutout innings, and he waves his appreciation right back to them as he heads down into the dugout.
I was very aware that he threw 121 pitches in 5 innings, but gave up nothing. Obviously, we want to try to give him the win. At that point in time, I don't think pitch count really mattered to him. I'm glad he got the out when he needed to. Ended up being 5 innings. Yeah, I mean, you could tell first 3 innings, it was 25 pitches an inning, so it was going to be, doing the math is going to be a little difficult, but probably you had to grind through it, probably more so than this year than any other start. You look at the line, 3 hits, no runs, 10 strikeouts. Pretty good.
Our KNBR Giants warm-up keeps rolling on the sports leader.
Justin Verlander had to work for it, but he got career win number 265. The sign of a true veteran. 3-10 on the season, pitching in what some would consider a meaningless game. The Giants still believe that they're in this thing in the National League wildcard race. And yet, he works as hard as he possibly can in inning number 5 to keep the Baltimore Orioles off the board, to get to 15 outs, was required of him to earn the win as a starter. And the Giants win 13-2 over the Baltimore Orioles. They pull within a game of 500. So let's take a look at scores around Major League Baseball as we continue to get you set for the Giants and the Rockies right here on Labor Day weekend. Monday afternoon matinee baseball at Coors Field. The Cincinnati Reds won 7-4 yesterday over the St. Louis Cardinals in a match of teams that are hanging right around the Giants in these NL wildcard standings. The Reds over 500 right now, 69-68. Brady Singer got win number 12. Emilio Pagan save number 26. The Cardinals fall back a half game behind the San Francisco Giants at 68-70. Those two teams will match up this weekend, and then, of course, later on in the month of September at Oracle Park. The Minnesota Twins won yesterday 7-2 over the San Diego Padres. How about the Bay Area's own Joe Ryan, Marin's own Joe Ryan, 13-7 with a 3.08 earned run average. He is outstanding for a Minnesota team that just decimated its roster at the trade deadline. They traded away pretty much everyone of value except for Byron Buxton, who's on that big, long extension, the centerpiece of the outfield and the lineup there in Minnesota. And Joe Ryan, who really could be dealt this offseason if Minnesota decides to go full rebuild. Ryan could be one of the top arms available this winter. And if you're Buster Posey, you have to make just about every call possible to get the Twins to part with Joe Ryan. Hart took the loss for San Diego yesterday, which falls to 76-61 on the year. The Padres, believe it or not, are 6 games under 500 on the road, which tells you just how dominant they've been at Petco Park this season. 21 over 500 at Petco Park already. Boston Red Sox won yesterday 5-2 over the Pittsburgh Pirates. It was Lucas Giolito who got win number 10, 10-2 with a 3.38 earned run average. Aroldis Chapman saved number 27 for Boston. He has just been outstanding throughout the second half of the season. Mitch Keller takes the loss. Jarren Duran hit a big 3-run home run that proved to be the difference in that ball game. Giolito noteworthy, pitching as well as you could possibly anticipate for him coming off that major injury from a season ago. Andrew Bailey has done wonders with that Red Sox pitching staff, former Giants pitching coach, and I think, if the Giants are ever in the market for a manager in the near future, Andrew Bailey of the Boston Red Sox, the pitching coach there, has to be the very first call. He is so good at what he does. He had the Giants pitching staff dialed in. He's got the Red Sox pitching staff dialed in. Perfect blend of old and new, understands biomechanics. I'm just so impressed with the work that Andrew Bailey has done to get that Red Sox pitching staff in the shape that it is. 76-62 the Red Sox are at the moment. Tampa Bay Rays won 7-4 yesterday in our nation's capital over the Washington Nationals, who fall 30 games under 500. Seymour gets the win for Tampa. Lord takes the loss, and Peter Fairbanks save number 24 for the Rays. Wild one up in Toronto. It was back and forth early before the Blue Jays pulled away from the Milwaukee Brewers 8-4. Thomas Nance gets the win. Brandon Woodruff takes loss number 2 on the season. Woodruff has been so good since coming back from that shoulder injury that sidelined him for a while. 5-2 with a 3.69 earned run average now. Both teams had 13 hits in that ball game. The score that most Giants fans were paying attention to yesterday, the New York Mets, they fell to 73-64 on the season with a 5-1 defeat at the hands of the Miami Marlins. Sandy Alcantara turned in a gem. He's now 8-11 with a 5.66 earned run average. Has not been the season that Alcantara wanted, but he did pitch well yesterday against the division foe in Queens. Kodai Senga takes the loss. He's 7-6 with a 3.02 earned run average. Senga has a tough time going deep into ball games. The ERA is low, but he often has a lot of traffic on the bases. The Mets, 9 games over 500 right now. They're 18 over 500 at home. They've got to figure out a way to win on the road to make sure that they can lock down that third wildcard spot in the National League. The Seattle Mariners won yesterday 4-2 over the Cleveland Guardians. It was Miller with the win, Tanner Beebe with a loss, and Andres Munoz save number 32 up there for Seattle. They won that one in Cleveland at Progressive Field. The Mariners 9 games over 500 right now. Seems like a long time ago the Giants swept them at Oracle Park early in the season. That was a big win for the Mariners because the first place Houston Astros lost in the American League West. That means there's now a 2-game advantage for Houston over Seattle. The Angels won that ball game yesterday 3-0. It was Jose Soriano picking up win number 10. He's 10-9 with a 3.68 earned run average. Hunter Brown takes loss number 7. He has been so good this season for Houston. 10-7 with a 2.34 earned run average. And Kenley Jansen, second save of the series for him in Houston. He gets save number 25, continuing to rack up in that category. Tarek Skubal was excellent yesterday for the Detroit Tigers, just dominant. 12-4 with a 2.18 earned run average as Skubal led the Tigers to a 5-0 win over Kansas City. Detroit up to 80 victories on the season at 80-58. Michael Wacha takes the loss from Mike Yastrzemski's Kansas City Royals. Yaz, by the way, OPS over 950 since that trade from the San Francisco Giants. He's been playing just about every day for those Royals. The White Sox won yesterday over the New York Yankees 3-2. Tough loss for the Yankees, who are trying to hold their ground in that AL wildcard race. It was Hill taking the loss. Tim Hill, former Padres reliever, and Vassell getting the save for Chicago in that one. Rockies came back and won yesterday with 2 runs in the 9th inning over the Chicago Cubs. So the Rockies improved to 39-98 on the season. Cubs fall to 78-59. Palencia gives up a walk-off for the second time on this road trip for Colorado. Because, of course, he gave up Jung-Hoo Lee's walk-off single on Thursday afternoon out at Oracle Park. The Rangers beat the A's 9-6 yesterday. Jacob deGrom gets win number 11 for Bruce Bochy's ball club up in Sacramento. deGrom 11-6 with a 2.69 earned run average. He is still performing at an extremely high level. JT Ginn takes the loss for Sacramento. 2-6, a 5.17 earned run average in that ball game. The Los Angeles Dodgers won 5-4 over the Arizona Diamondbacks. Blake Treinen gets the win out of the bullpen for Los Angeles, 1-2 with a 3.12 earned run average. And Curtis takes loss for Arizona, which, much like the San Francisco Giants, has played much better ball of late. D-backs also believe that they are not yet out of the National League wildcard race. I'll still say any team that's entering the month of September under 500, the odds are stacked deeply, deeply against you. But the Diamondbacks and the Giants match up 6 times, and if either one of those teams takes 5 or 6 games from their opponent, they could very much vault themselves back into the conversation, particularly because the Mets have a tough schedule in the month of September. And then Sunday night baseball, it was the Atlanta Braves taking care of business in Philadelphia, Citizens Bank Park. They beat the Philadelphia Phillies 3-1. Tyler Kinley the win out of the bullpen. Jose Alvarado, the left-hander, takes the loss for Philadelphia. And Raisel Iglesias, save number 23 for a Braves team that's 13 games under 500. On the other side, Marty Lurie is going to join us. We're going to talk a little bit about what makes Labor Day weekend so special, not just in baseball, but in our country as well. Giants and the Rockies, Labor Day matinee at Coors Field in Colorado. It's Kai Wei Tang going for San Francisco. Chase Dollander, top prospect for the Colorado Rockies, on the hill for the home team. You're listening to KNBR 104.5 680, the sports leader.
And the pitch. Swing, and there's a drive into right field. Going back is Beavers. It's going to go over his head, and it's into the fourth archway. And then it ricochets off the side of the arch toward the right field line. He has to go chase it. But jogging around to third goes Koss. He'll stop there. And Gilbert does get a double, his third hit of the game, his first three-hit game in the big leagues.
Welcome back to our KNBR Giants warm-up on the Sports Leader.
We are back here on Giants warm-up, and a Drew Gilbert highlight can mean only one thing. We are joined now by the voice of Talkin' Baseball. You hear him every Sunday, and for years you've heard him on Labor Day as well. Marty Lurie. Marty, pleasure to have you on.
Well, I appreciate it. You know, it's funny, coming out of the break, I almost said, well, nice to have you with us today as the Giants get ready to play the Rockies. I thought I was on. It's funny when
hey, 15 years of Labor Day shows will do that to you, you know?
Really, I was ready to come back out of the break and say, hey, it's great to be with you today, which is a very special day. It is. Labor Day is a very special day in the country, and it celebrates the American worker and all the hard work that put this country together, and it was done by the workers. And baseball has always sort of been connected to Labor Day, and it goes back a long way. We can talk about it, but you know, baseball has always been that blue-collar sport, the sport that includes factory workers. And in the early days of baseball, the players who played were working class kind of people, and that's what the labor movement was all about in the early 1900s when all that stuff came about. So baseball's always had that connection through the players and the fans and the accessibility. And it's not a day of, you know, frivolity. It's a day really that you come back and you think about what people sacrificed to put this country together and the hard work they did and the working conditions that they had to fight for, whether it was, you know, a 5-day week or 8-hour day or whatever it may have been. When all this came about, people had to get together and fight the companies to get their rights. So it is a big day, and baseball's always connected to it. As I say, years ago they had big doubleheaders on Labor Day. It's always the end of summer, and now it's really the race to the finish in baseball. It's always been a very exciting time, and Labor Day kind of marks that for everybody. So I'm glad to be with you today.
Yeah, it's a very special day, and I think that you're the perfect guest to have today because baseball and Labor Day are inextricably linked. You know, you said it so well, Marty. This is a sport that for years and years was a true working class sport, so a blue collar sport, and it's always important to remember the history. Remember where you come from. Remember how you got here as a sport. And, you know, you look around the sports landscape today, and baseball still has one of the strongest players' unions of all professional sports in this country. And really, you know, I was talking earlier today, I opened the show with a reflection on my dad, who, of course, you know, Marty, FX Crowley, was a labor union representative in San Francisco for so many years for Local 16, IATSC, the Theatrical Stage Employees Union, and most recently, before he passed in February, for Local 119, which represents, of course, the production workers who bring you Giants baseball, the people who operate the cameras, the people who operate the production truck behind the scenes of Giants games, Warriors games, and every TV event in and around the Bay Area in Northern California. And, you know, this weekend I've been thinking a lot about these folks who spend so much of their time making sure throughout the season, every evening, every weekend, every holiday, including today, that fans can enjoy Giants baseball, that fans can enjoy Warriors basketball pre- and post-game shows and the like. And so I'm thinking a lot about the folks who my dad represented out at Local 119, Matt and Ahas, and the great crews that work on these Giants games. And I'm just I'm really grateful to be a part of this show today. And, you know, I also talked about the people working behind the scenes at KNBR, whether it be Raph, who's been there every single weekend, every Labor Day with you, Kyle Harr, who's produced games this weekend, Danny Dunn, who's produced games this weekend. There's real sacrifice to make sure that the general public has access to the sport that we love on the weekend. And I just think this is such a special time, and like you said, such a special day when we remember our history and the history of baseball that's linked together with Labor Day.
No, absolutely. And your father was a big part of it, and that's the key here. From all the things you mentioned, your dad was a major organizer of labor unions and protecting them and negotiating and things like that. Things don't happen so easily. That's why you need a union, and unions are being threatened today. But without the union, you don't get the working conditions that you have today. Look, Raph doesn't get his chicken wings without the labor union. You know that from Amici's. We got we got that for him. So I'm only kidding, but it's those kinds of things. It's the working conditions that your father fought for, and very important. And you mentioned where all this comes from, and the labor unions came about. It's kind of an interesting story. We can digress for a minute, but it goes back to what was known as the Pullman strike in the late 1890s, 1894. And George Pullman was someone in the Midwest, and he made luxury sleeping railroad cars. And in the 1890s, we went through a big economic depression. And he owned the town, the Pullman town. He owned it. And all the workers lived in the town. Well, the depression happened, and he cut everyone's wages 25%, and didn't lower the prices, and kept the town going the way it was going. And the workers needed to be able to negotiate and say, hey, wait a minute, we can't work at that rate anymore in this depression. And he wouldn't negotiate with them. So this big strike happened, the Pullman strike, and it crippled the railroads throughout the country. 250,000 people were involved. And Grover Cleveland, not the pitcher, but Grover Cleveland, the president, got involved. And there was an injunction from the Supreme Court that said you can't have this strike that was going on that crippled the railroads. And they sent in the federal troops in 1894 to break this strike, the Pullman strike, because the workers would not work anymore and the railroads shut down. And 30 people were killed, and it was a very violent, bloody confrontation, and it was a very nasty confrontation. So when it was all said and done, the injunction went in place, and the workers had to go back to work. But to appease the labor force, Grover Cleveland, 6 days after the strike ended, said, let's have Labor Day, which honors the laborers and the workers and all that. And that's how Labor Day came about, to be the first Monday in September. And Grover Cleveland said, well, we'll throw a bone here to these folks and appease them, and we'll make a special day of Labor Day. And that's the way it came about. And then we go to the areas that you talked about in the development of the auto industry. Don't forget, this was the Industrial Revolution at that time.
Yeah.
And the country was building things and factories and child labor laws and all these things and sweatshops and things like that. They were prevalent in the country, and the people who owned them wouldn't negotiate at all. And that's when the labor unions really got a stronghold and were able to get the rights for their workers. And baseball, let's face it, we look at baseball players, the millionaires and all that. It wasn't always like that. For the players, had minimum salaries. The owners, they had the reserve clause that if you signed with a team, you were with them for the rest of your life. And they paid you whatever they wanted to pay you. You had no rights at all. And then finally in the mid-'60s, Marvin Miller came along and helped organize the baseball players, and they got arbitration for certain issues that came up during the season. They could arbitrate. And then in the mid-'70s, free agency came about, and that's when baseball really changed. But it was because of the labor union that the players finally got what they deserved in this billion-dollar industry. They got the salaries they deserved. So Labor Day and baseball really are inextricably connected, if I could say that word correctly on this Monday morning. They are. And that's the way baseball works. And it's this race to the finish now. And this is going to be an exciting day today, but it is a day to honor the workers and the people who built the Golden Gate Bridge and the Salesforce Tower and everything else, because we don't have a country without the people who do the work.
No, well said, and I'm so glad that you brought up the name Marvin Miller, Marty, because so much of your show and so much what I'm trying to cultivate on my show now with Giants Warm-Up is a remembrance of our past, remembrance of baseball history, and Marvin Miller, obviously someone who played a critical role in the labor movement in baseball, but also the name Curt Flood. When I say the name Curt Flood, what do you think of?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think of someone who sacrificed the end of his career and challenged the reserve clause and said, even though he's a good player and he's making some money, he didn't want to be traded from St. Louis to Philadelphia, from Philadelphia on. And he said, no, I'm not going to go. And he said, the reserve clause, which binds me to a team, and I have to do what they say, I'm not going to do it. And he sacrificed the end of his career. He was a tremendous center fielder for the Cardinals in the 60s, and he's from Oakland. And he took on the baseball establishment. They went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, nah, the reserve clause is okay. There's really no interstate commerce here. It's really just a sport, which was ridiculous. But there was an insinuation, an implication in the opinion that said, baseball, maybe you better take a look at this down the road. And that's eventually what led to arbitration and which led to free agency. But Curt Flood, to answer your question, he gave up his career to take on the baseball establishment. And there was a big trial, and it went to the Supreme Court. And that was Curt Flood's career, which came to an end, which led to free agency.
Yeah, born in Houston, Texas, but raised in Oakland, California. McClymonds High School. He transferred to Oakland Tech, which is where he graduated. And Curt Flood, Bay Area through and through, and the Bay Area has always been kind of at the center of these labor movements throughout sports and throughout the country. That's why San Francisco and the Bay Area as a whole has been such a great place for labor. And so I know that there's many people out there today, whether they're commuting to their jobs that they're working on this Labor Day weekend, whether you're commuting and you have today off, who can appreciate the history that goes into all of this, Marty. And I think that it's really special to us that we can honor those folks who've come before us and paved the way for the lives that we've been able to live. And I know that, we're part of separate generations, but we come together on this show and we talk through history, we talk through baseball, and it's really special to me on a day like today.
Well, it's very important because, you don't get anywhere unless you can negotiate. And without labor unions, without the labor force, the people who ran the country, ran the companies and everything else, they didn't want to negotiate. And it took a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and confrontations and some nasty things and strikes and things like that to get these negotiations underway. And look, we may have it again in baseball in 2028 when this contract expires. There are issues that the players want to deal with, and the owners want to have a salary cap. We don't want to pay you that much more. But meanwhile, they're going to be getting billions more in revenue. And the players don't want to have a salary cap. They never would permit it. So these issues are still alive today in 2025, and we're going to see them again in 2028. So baseball has a way, which I've said many times, whatever happens in this country happens on a baseball field, whether it's integration, technology, steroids, wars, whatever it is, baseball's always been a part of it, and it always reflects what's going on in the country. So baseball today, on Labor Day, baseball is playing day games, and they wanted to have day games early. Of course, they didn't have lights for some of the stadiums at that point, but they always wanted to have day games so the workers could go to the games during the day. And that traditionally, even today, you'll see there are more day games than night games today on a Monday.
Yeah, Giants traveling into Colorado today to take on the Rockies at Coors Field at 2:10 local time start out there in Colorado, 1:10 p.m. Pacific time. So, Marty, before we let you go here, your thoughts on these 7 wins in 8 games. You've been insistent that the Giants are not out of this thing, and sure enough, the Mets lose yesterday, the Giants win yesterday, and you look like the prophet today. And maybe I will. My opinion that they're not in this thing until they're 3 games back will be challenged if they get to 3 games back this week.
Well, they can, and it's September 1st. It's the race to the finish. This is. It's so funny, and, I love to read about things, baseball history and things like that. And I'll digress for a second here on this Labor Day and go back to a pennant race that I forgot about. 1934, and it was the Giants and the Cardinals. And the Giants were in first place heading into September and had like a 6 or 7 game lead over the Cardinals. And the Cardinals went 20-5 in September, and the Giants went 13-14, and they made up the deficit. And the Cardinals ended up, winning the pennant. The Cardinals had 2 pitchers, the Dean brothers, and it was Carl Hubble, whose numbers retired for the Giants. And this is the famous pennant race where Bill Terry ended up saying the Giants and Dodgers played the last 2 games of the year, and if the Giants beat the Dodgers in those 2 games, they could beat the Cardinals for the pennant. And Bill Terry, before the series, said, "Are the Dodgers still in the league?" And sure enough, the Dodgers beat the Giants twice, and the Cardinals won the pennant. So it's a long time ago, but it's baseball. And this is what September's all about. Who knows? Maybe J.T. Brubaker will come in and give him 20 innings and win 3 games. Bring him up. You never know what's going to happen, but there's plenty of time.
I was going to say, you never know what's going to happen, but you do have to go back only, 91 years to find a comparison for the
That was
Giants
one that was one I gave you. I could give you others, but I just happened to be reading about Branch Rickey last night, and I said, boy, this will be good for Kerry. Kerry's going to like this.
I do love it. I think that 1934 they were still trying to recover from Travis Jackson's loss. I think that he played 1920 to 1933. I love the historical comparisons. And speaking of baseball history, Marty, there's one more that I wanted to ask you. Giants came into this season, and it was all about Kyle Harrison and Landon Roop and Hayden Birdsong, and Carson Wisenhunt and Mason Black and all these young pitchers. And yesterday, none of these young pitchers are around anymore. They're injured. They're in the minors. They've been traded. Justin Verlander throws 121 pitches. He's getting better as the season goes along. He's going to turn 43 in February. Do you entertain the idea of bringing him back?
No. As much as it was great having him here, but he struggles, and his 5 innings are painful with the walks and the hanging breaking balls and all that. And he's 40. He'll be 43 years old. And I would think at this point you want to try to find some younger pitchers who can come into that slot. And hopefully Roop will be back, and that'll be a challenge for Buster. But I don't think you build the pitching staff, honestly, around a 43-year-old, even if he's a 5th starter. And he's been terrific. It's a pleasure to watch him and watch the way he works. But it is a little bit painful. He puts some people on base, and he gets out of trouble. So I think he's been great this year. I love seeing him. But no, I wouldn't bring him back. What do you think about the call-up today?
J.T. Brubaker? Hey, why not?
Yeah, what do you
right? I mean,
he's got a history.
They got no one else who can pitch.
Well, he's got a history. With the Pirates, he had Tommy John surgery as a starter. Worked out of the bullpen for the Yankees this year. He's been in the bullpen for Sacramento for a few appearances. And he's perfect for what they need right now, and that's someone who can pitch 4 or 5 innings. So came out of nowhere, but I think Buster, picked up someone that may be helpful.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. So, Marty, thank you so much for joining me here on Labor Day. I know this has been a special show for you through the years, and wouldn't have felt right without having you here on KNBR on Labor Day, talking about how baseball and labor history inextricably linked together, and what a special day it is.
I'm glad you said the word. I couldn't say it. Inextricably. I'm glad you said it. That was good. But no, we honor your father and your mother, Nancy, and for the work that your family has done. And that's why I was very happy to come on with you today.
Well, thank you so much, and always appreciate Marty. You'll hear him next Sunday on Talking Baseball. More when we come back right here on Giants Warm Up on the Sports Leader.
Yeah, I mean, obviously his.
You can always count on Willie.
Sorry, guys. It was kind of tough to answer that one. I knew that was coming, so. I wouldn't say I'm feeling too comfortable right now after that, but no, it was good to get a win, good to win another series, especially at home in front of this great fan base.
We're getting you in the mood for a crazy crab sandwich, some garlic fries, a cha-cha bowl, and some orange and black baseball. KNBR's Giants warm-up keeps rolling on the sports leader.
Drew Gilbert, meet the Powerade bucket. Willie Adames has been in charge of that all season long. Gilbert gets the post-game conversation on NBC Sports Bay Area after the Giants' 13-2 rout of the Baltimore Orioles on Sunday. Gilbert's first three-hit game as a major leaguer. And Willie Adames gives him the treatment that so many Giants offensive heroes have received this season. Quite honestly, they'd like a number of others to get it as well during the month of September. Giants sitting at 68 and 69, entering the final month of games. 25 to go for this ball club. And they've got to win about, 18 to have a legitimate shot here, maybe 19 to have a legitimate shot of making the postseason. It is, again, like we said, the odds are stacked against them. For the better part of August, this team played with 2026 in mind. But because they've won 7 of their last 8, and because they're going into Coors Field against a Rockies team that's on the verge of losing 100 this season, you can't count this team out just yet. They're not mathematically eliminated. The odds are stacked in their favor. The playoff odds have got to be about 0.5% right now. But again, until that number hits 0, you've got to at least keep that possibility open. And players over the last week have increasingly looked as if they believe in the possibility, and that perhaps is one of the most important parts of what we've seen for a Giants ball club that's enjoyed several offensive explosions. The home run streak at 14 consecutive games right now. Rafael Devers extending that yesterday with his solo shot out to center field in the first inning. We'll touch on Devers, Willie Adames, and Justin Verlander more as we move through the 11 o'clock hour here on Giants Warm-Up. Kerry Crowley hanging with you, getting you set for Giants baseball on the radio. We're just about 2 hours away from first pitch here on the Sports Leader. Just under 2 hours, I should say. Chase Dollander going for the Colorado Rockies. Top prospect, 2-11 on the season, a 655 earned run average, 75 strikeouts for Dollander, and Kai-Wei Tang recalled from AAA Sacramento to make the spot start for the San Francisco Giants. Tang 1-3 on the season, an 8.78 earned run average. His best outing was 5 scoreless innings against the Washington Nationals in a home win on a Friday night in the month of August. But outside of that, he has really struggled in limited major league action. Here are the lineups for today's ball game. Tyler Freeman leading things off for the Colorado Rockies. Second baseman has 2 homers, 27 RBI, 17 stolen bases, 287 average, and a 738 OPS. Former number 1 overall pick in the 2016 draft, Mickey Moniak on his 3rd major league franchise. He'll bat second and play right field for the Rockies. Moniak having a nice year. 18 homers, 55 runs driven in, 6 stolen bases, a 263 average, and 805 OPS. So starting to realize some of that potential. The Rockies' best player hits third is Hunter Goodman, the catcher, who can also DH and play a little bit of outfield for you. 26 home runs for Goodman this season, 76 runs batted in, a stolen base, a 275 average, and an 841 OPS. Jordan Beck is the cleanup man. He's out in left field today for Colorado. 14 runs batted in, 44 stolen bases. He's also got 14 stolen bases, a 267 average, and a 763 OPS. Brenton Doyle out in center field will hit 5th today for Colorado. The speedster has 14 homers, 53 runs batted in, 15 steals, 244 average, and a 688 OPS. Ezekiel Tovar in the 6th spot in the order today for the Rockies. 8 homers, 23 batted in, a 261 average, and a 732 OPS. Kyle Karros, I believe the son of former Dodger infielder Eric Karros over at third base, the hot corner for Colorado, which of course for years and years was manned by Nolan Arenado. Karros has 1 homer, 6 runs batted in, 243 average, and a 645 OPS in limited major league opportunities for the Rockies this season. Yanquiel Fernandez, the designated hitter today for Colorado. He'll hit from the left side against Kai-Wei Tang. 3 homers, 8 batted in, a 261 average, and a 675 OPS. And it's the veteran first baseman Orlando Arcia rounding out the order for Colorado. He had a walk-off against the Giants earlier this year. I believe Randy Rodriguez was on the hill when Arcia had the walk-off hit against San Francisco at Coors Field. 3 homers, 13 batted in, a 207 average, and a 545 OPS. So Arcia, not someone you want hurting you if you're Bob Melvin and the San Francisco Giants. Speaking of Melvin and the Giants, here's how they will set things up this afternoon. Elliot Ramos, the leadoff man for San Francisco. Playing left field today, 16 homers, 58 batted in, 6 stolen bases on the season for Ramos, a 268 average, and a 749 OPS. Giants would like him to finish the season closer to 760, 770 after the All-Star campaign a season ago. The red-hot Rafael Devers will bat second today, the DH today for San Francisco. 28 homers, 13 of which have come with the Giants. 93 runs batted in, 1 stolen base, a 262 average, and an 865 OPS. That number well over 800 since the All-Star break. Willy Adames, one of the hottest hitters on the San Francisco Giants, will bat third. The chase for 30 home runs is on for Adames. Heck of a month in August for him. 25 homers, 72 batted in, 8 stolen bases, a 228 average on the year for Adames, 234 since the start of May, and a 737 OPS. Again, that number in the 780s since the start of May. Dominic Smith will be the cleanup man today for the San Francisco Giants. Has 4 homers this season for San Francisco. One of those came earlier this year at Coors Field. 28 runs batted in, 2 stolen bases, a 238 average, and a 750 OPS. Dom Smith has been a really good Giant since the Giants signed him out of AAA in the Yankees organization. Actually, Smith had been granted his release by Scranton Wilkes-Barre, the Yankees AAA affiliate, before he came over to San Francisco in the transaction that ultimately jettisoned Lamont Wade Jr. off the roster in early June. Matt Chapman will hit 5th today for Bob Melvin's club. 18 homers, 50 runs batted in, and 9 stolen bases for Chapman, who's trying to bring the average up. It's sitting at 231 right now, but the OPS is solid 771 for the Giants' third baseman. Jung-Hoo Lee gets the call in the 6th slot in the order today for the Giants. Left-handed hitting center fielder, 7 homers, 48 runs batted in, 10 stolen bases, a 259 average, and a 727 OPS for Lee. Casey Schmidt will hit 7th. He had the day off yesterday. Christian Koss played second base. Schmidt back in there, 9 homers, 31 batted in, a 239 average, and a 709 OPS. The switch-hitting catcher Patrick Bailey will hit 8th today for San Francisco. He'll bat from the left side against Chase Dollander. 2 homers, one of which was the inside-the-park walk-off against the Phillies in the month of July. 39 runs batted in, a 208 average, and a 557 OPS. That's got to come up for Patrick Bailey. And fresh off a 3-hit ball game, Drew Gilbert will round out the lineup for San Francisco. I think Gilbert's the type of player who could thrive at Coors Field. Makes a lot of contact, hits a lot of line drives. Could see a triple or 2 this week from Gilbert, who's got good speed on the base. He'll be out in right field today for San Francisco. 1 homer, 7 runs batted in, a stolen base, a 190 average. It's come up quite a bit over the last 24 hours, and a 571 OPS. A very slow start to the Major League career for Gilbert, who, of course, was a former first-round draft pick of the Houston Astros, traded to the New York Mets in a deal that brought Justin Verlander to Houston, and then Gilbert ultimately traded to San Francisco in the deal that sent Tyler Rogers to New York to help fill out that bullpen in Queens. So after the 3-hit day yesterday, it's Gilbert in the outfield in right, it's Ramos in left, it's Jung-Hoo Lee in center, which means one of the Giants' hottest hitters, Luis Matos, will sit down today. The Giants trying to play Matos just about every day down the stretch, but they've got a 4 outfielder rotation they're really taking a look at right now. Gilbert, a big part of that. They want to see how much they can rely on him entering the 2026 season, and Matos very much a part of the Giants' 2026 plans based on what he's done over the last 2 weeks or so. And really a remarkable rise for Luis Matos, who's, again, not in the lineup today, but has been one of the Giants' best players since being recalled from AAA Sacramento. You talk about the beginning of the month of August for San Francisco. Fresh off the Mike Yastrzemski trade, Matos had a few days in the big leagues. He went 1 for 4, and then ultimately he was sent back to AAA Sacramento. The Giants chose to get a look at Grant McCray over Matos. They chose to get a look at Gerard Encarnacion over Matos. And then the Giants ultimately just decided to bring up Drew Gilbert and go with the left fielder. Tyler Fitzgerald was playing some right field. It was basically look at anyone but Luis Matos, who to that point in the season had a 168 batting average and a 564 OPS. But since being recalled from AAA Sacramento on August 21st against the San Diego Padres, Matos 16 for 37 over the last 10 ball games for the Giants. 3 doubles, a triple, 3 home runs, 8 runs batted in, 2 stolen bases. So during that time frame, a 432 batting average, an 811 slugging percentage, and a 1261 OPS. He has been, quite simply, the Giants' best hitter at a time when Rafael Devers and Willy Adames have been carrying this offense. So when you get 3 players hot at the same time as the San Francisco Giants have, you're going to win quite a few more ball games, and that's how the Giants have won 7 of their last 8. Matos, a big part of this, and it's really reminiscent of the stretch he had last May when the Giants were struggling, toiling, looking for some sort of offensive production. Matos comes up from AAA Sacramento, and against the Rockies and against the Dodgers at home at Oracle Park, he provides a burst of energy at the plate, ultimately wins a National League Player of the Week award, drove in 17 runs over the course of something like 6 or 7 ball games, had a grand slam mixed in there. He really looked like the future in the outfield, but immediately after that stretch for the San Francisco Giants, Matos' bat got ice cold. He could not continue to stay in the strike zone. He ultimately was sent back to AAA Sacramento, and the Giants had no choice but to look at other outfielders down the stretch last year. Matos did not play a game for this team in the month of August and ultimately only played in 6 games, including 3 in which he came in as a substitute in the month of September. This team was moving on from Luis Matos or not ready to give him the opportunity, and it appears, though, they were in position to do the exact same thing after the trade deadline this year when the team traded Mike Yastrzemski to the Kansas City Royals. But Matos was patient, stayed patient, continued to make adjustments at AAA Sacramento, came back to the big league level, and figured out a way to start thriving for this ball club. It's been really one of the best stories over the course of the last 2 weeks, and it's a Giants team that needs better stories. Let's be honest. So much of this summer was spent talking about all the reasons this team collapsed, all the injuries that got in this team's way, and all the failures that happened post-Rafael Devers trade for this ball club that ultimately left the Giants spending most of August toiling, thinking more about 2026 than making a playoff run in 2025. But they're getting hot at the right time. They are blessed with a schedule that is relatively easy in the month of September. And if there was ever a team that could make some surprise noise down the stretch, perhaps it's the San Francisco Giants. But to do that, they'll have to sweep the Colorado Rockies. They'll have to win these 3 ball games. They'll have to take advantage of Tuesday and Wednesday when Logan Webb goes for the San Francisco Giants. Their ace still very much in the mix in the Cy Young race. He won't win it. Paul Skeens in all likelihood will. Christopher Sanchez of the Philadelphia Phillies will likely come in second, but Webb should place for the 4th consecutive year in that category, maybe 3rd, maybe 4th, maybe 5th. Freddie Peralta still very much a part of that race for the Milwaukee Brewers as well, and a few other pitchers worth mentioning. But Webb leads the major leagues in innings. If he can get through 6+ tomorrow against Colorado, that will be a feather in his cap. The Giants looking for a bounce-back performance on Wednesday from Robbie Ray, who, of course, struggled on Friday evening in the 15-8 win over the Baltimore Orioles. Did not complete 5 innings for the Giants in that one. But today is the one that they have to get through. They have to figure out a way to manage the bullpen and to manage Kai-Wei Tang against a Rockies lineup that makes a lot of contact. Tang 1-3 on the season and an 8.78 earned run average, as I mentioned. Did have 5 scoreless innings and a victory over the Washington Nationals at Oracle Park in the month of in the month of August, but nevertheless has struggled mightily in his brief major league experience. So this is the big one. If the Giants win today, they can start to turn the corner. They'll get back to 500, and they will give themselves a shot to do damage in the National League. But there's not good news on the out-of-town scoreboard right now. Top of the 4th inning in Detroit. The Mets lead the Detroit Tigers 6-3 right now. Montero in the game for Detroit. They're already into their bullpen at Comerica Park, and Brandon Nimmo stepping to the plate right now for the Mets. So that's one to keep your eye on, as the Mets are 9 games over 500. The Giants 1 game under 500, and there's also a number of other teams in the mix in this National League wildcard race that, again, I say in the mix. The Giants aren't quite in the picture just yet. You got to get, in my opinion, to 3 games back to force your way into the picture. But crazier things have happened. The Reds, a game over 500. The Diamondbacks, 2 games under. The Cardinals, also 2 games under. All of these teams believe that they have hope because the Mets have struggled in the second half, and they have not got the schedule on their side in the month of September. So that's something to keep your eye on this afternoon as we get you set for Giants baseball on the radio. When we come back, I'll look at scores around the major leagues from games in progress right now. We'll keep you updated on the wildcard races in both the American and the National League. I'm Kerry Crowley. The show is Giants Warm Up. We're hanging with you until first pitch of Giants baseball coming your way at 1:10 p.m. Pacific time out at Coors Field in Colorado, right here on the Sports Leader.
While Bob Melvin preps the men in orange and black, we'll prep you for today's ball game as our Giants warm-up continues on the Sports Leader.
All right, Kerry Crowley back here with you on Giants Warm-Up. Special Labor Day weekend show. Always fun to hang out with you on the holiday weekends, and appreciate the good team back at the KNBR studio making these shows and these broadcasts run smoothly. And also, it's been fun to do extra innings with Bill Lasky over the course of the last couple of days, and he's got another great guest list this afternoon. Bill will be on with you Monday afternoon after the Giants and the Rockies wrap up, and he'll look ahead to Game 2 of the series. Logan Webb taking the hill for the Giants. Game 3 of the series, Robbie Ray taking the hill for the Giants. Bill's been in Saturday, Sunday, and, of course, Monday, and he'll be with you on Giants Warm-Up toward the end of the month of September as well. I'll be taking some time off, and Bill has kindly volunteered to step in. So 415-808-KNBR is the number. He will take your phone calls and have a lot of fun with you down the stretch as we wrap up this 2025 Giants season. We do want to keep you updated on scores around Major League Baseball. Bottom of the fifth inning right now in our nation's capital, where the Washington Nationals who hold a 2-0 advantage over the Miami Marlins. Seth Martinez, former top prospect, on the mound for the Nats at the moment. Top of the fourth inning, this is the game that everyone's focused on right now in the National League as it pertains to the wild card race. The Mets lead the Tigers, the top team in the American League right now, 6-3 at Comerica Park. Montero on the hill for New York in that one. Bottom of the fifth inning, as I load my screen here. Top of the sixth inning as I load my screen here. Reds lead the Blue Jays 2-0 right now at Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati. Hunter Green spinning a gem for the Reds, who are 69-68 at the moment. The Blue Jays 79-58. Reds in second place, not in second place, in fourth place in the National League wildcard standings. The top three teams, of course, secure berths. So it goes Cubs, Padres, Mets, then the Cincinnati Reds at 69-68 right now. They're 37-31 at home, and Hunter Green, really one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball when he has his stuff going. End of the second inning at Fenway Park in Boston, where it's already a wild back-and-forth affair. The Guardians 3, the Red Sox 3. Manzardo, Naylor, and Nolan Jones, the former Rocky, due up for Cleveland in the top of the third. Middle of the second inning in Houston, where the Astros and the Angels are tied 0-0. Neither team has a hit in that ball game yet. Angels had a very scary situation last night, and my thoughts are with the organization and this specific player who was involved in this moment. Taylor Ward, who's a great outfielder for Los Angeles, he went crashing into the chain link wall in left field last night, tracking down a fly ball, and was bloodied up, bleeding profusely from his face. And Joe Adell of the Angels had some strong words post-game saying that no Major League facility should have a chain link fence in the outfield. It should all be padded. And I know the Giants have some chain link out in right field. I don't know exactly the difference between what Houston's got in their manually operated scoreboard and what the Giants have out in right field. I do think it's a beautiful touch, but anytime you see a player suffer a serious injury like the one that Taylor Ward had last night, it makes you think. It stops you in your tracks, because anyone who saw that moment knows just how scary that was for the Angels outfielder. Bottom of the second inning right now in Minneapolis, where the White Sox lead the Twins 3-0. Ellard on the hill for Chicago right now. Royce Lewis at the plate for Minnesota, which does not have a hit just yet. Top of the second inning in St. Louis, where the Cardinals at 68-70 are playing host to both Northern California teams this week. I almost said both Bay Area teams, but the A's abandoned everyone. John Fisher, more specifically, abandoned everyone. Cardinals at 68-70 right now. The A's at 63-75 after a loss to the Rangers yesterday. Sonny Gray on the hill, Vanderbilt zone for St. Louis in that ball game. Some other games to tell you about this afternoon. The Cubs play host to the Atlanta Braves. Colin Rea goes for Chicago. Spencer Strider, 5-12 on the season, 4.95 earned run average, coming back from his major injury as he's returned this season, goes for the Braves, who made one of the most interesting acquisitions of the day. Remember, before today's game started, players could join new organizations, either on waiver claims, minor league deals. There's all sorts of deals that have gone down across the major leagues and be eligible for postseason play. The Braves, 13 games under 500, not going anywhere in terms of the postseason this year, but they placed a waiver claim on Ha-Seong Kim of the Tampa Bay Rays, former San Diego Padres infielder, beloved down in San Diego. And so they will pick up the remaining $2 million that he's owed this season. And it's not just the $2 million that he's owed this season. Ha-Seong Kim has a $16 million player option for the 2026 season. And so assuming he picks that up and he hasn't had a great year with Tampa, the Braves will pay him all of that. It is a gamble for Atlanta, which last year took on Jorge Soler and then was able to flip him late. But it just seems like an interesting move for a team that oftentimes has watched its payroll a little bit more closely than the Braves seem to be doing right now. So 13 games under 500 and already thinking about 2026, then they're adding Ha-Seong Kim to that infield mix, assuming Ha-Seong Kim would have picked up that player option with the Tampa Bay Rays, but the Rays get out from underneath that deal. The Milwaukee Brewers play host to the Philadelphia Phillies today. This is really one of the great series of the week. The Brewers at 85 wins, the Phillies at 79 wins. That game coming your way at 1:10 p.m. Pacific time. The Miz, Jacob Mizorowski, goes for Milwaukee 4-2 with a 4.33 earned run average. He's opposed by Taijuan Walker, 4-7 this season with a 3.63 ERA. San Diego Padres play host to the Baltimore Orioles, who continue their West Coast road trip. Kyle Bradish goes for Baltimore, and he's opposed by Dylan Cease, having a tough year in San Diego with the Padres, but he could be counted on to start postseason games. 6-11 with a 4.82 earned run average. The Padres 43-22 this season down at Petco Park. Really one of the premier atmospheres in all of Major League Baseball, what they've built down there in San Diego. The Tampa Bay Rays play host to the Seattle Mariners today at Shane Baz going for Tampa, 8-11 with a 5.19 earned run average. And Luis Castillo going for Seattle, 8-7 with a 3.75 earned run average. Former Giants farmhand, really just so stable atop that Mariners rotation. The Mariners have cut that advantage the Houston Astros have in the AL West to just 2 ball games right now. And final game of the evening, the latest start on the West Coast. The Arizona Diamondbacks play host to the Texas Rangers. It's Ryan Nelson going for Torey Lovullo's squad, 7-3 with a 3.53 earned run average this season. And Patrick Corbin pitching for Bruce Bochy's team, 7-9 with a 4.33 earned run average for those Texas Rangers. So let's keep you updated on the wild card standings around Major League Baseball right now. We already mentioned a little bit about the National League, and we'll touch on that in just a moment, but keeping you updated in the American League. It is quite a race in the AL East right now. The Yankees are in first place in the AL wildcard standings with a 76-61 record today. They are trailed by a half a game by the Boston Red Sox at 76-62 right now. Yankees have a plus 134 run differential. The Red Sox plus 102. And the Seattle Mariners, the top team in that third position for the wild card spot in the American League at 73-64. Texas Rangers still very much in this thing at 71-67, 2.5 games out of the wild card. Kansas City Royals also in this thing at 70-67, just 3 games out. And then as you start to slide down the playoff picture, it's the Guardians at 68-67, 4 games out. But again, they'd have to hop over 3 teams to become postseason eligible. And the Tampa Bay Rays, 5.5 out at 67-69, so not necessarily a part of this thing. Teams that are playing for draft position at this point, the Angels, 8 games under 500, the A's, 12 under 500, the Twins, 12 games under 500, the Baltimore Orioles at 15 under 500, and the Chicago White Sox, who are so far under 500 that it's impossible for me to count, 39 games at 49-88. In the National League, here's how the things stack up. Chicago Cubs leading the wild card race by quite a bit right now, 78-59, trailing the Milwaukee Brewers in the NL Central, but the Cubs should position themselves nicely with a strong finish to the season. The San Diego Padres holding down that second wild card spot right now at 76-61. They have a 3-game edge over the third place team in the wild card race, and that is the New York Mets, who have that third spot locked down at the moment. They are 9 games over 500 at 73-64. The Mets, amazing at home this season, 45-27, but dismal on the road, 28-37, a plus 64 run differential, but they've lost 2 in a row. Back-to-back defeats against the Miami Marlins. Not a good look for the Mets, who've struggled a bit since the All-Star break, and they got off to such a great start in the months of April, May, and June, and we'll see if they can hang on. The Cincinnati Reds, the team that are charging hardest behind the New York Mets at 69-68. Still 4 games out, so difficult to envision the Reds getting all the way back into this thing, but they do have a plus 33 run differential on the season. And then there's 3 teams hovering right around the same mark. The San Francisco Giants in that mix at 68-69, 5 games out in the wild card. The Arizona Diamondbacks at 68-70, 5.5 out. And the St. Louis Cardinals 68-70, also 5.5 out right now. The Cardinals with a negative run differential at minus 33. And then there are the teams that are already playing for draft position. The Marlins at 7 under 500. The Atlanta Braves 13 under 500, who again made that interesting claim on Ha-Seong Kim. And then the Pittsburgh Pirates 16 under 500 at 61-77. The Washington Nationals 30 under at 53-83. The Colorado Rockies 39-98. The Giants could deal them loss number 99 today and loss number 100 tomorrow if they are able to take advantage of this bad Rockies team that is slightly better at Coors Field than it is on the road. Nevertheless, the Rockies 25 under at Coors this season, 22-47, but they did win on a walk-off yesterday over the Chicago Cubs. So maybe a little bit of momentum for Colorado coming into this series, but the Giants bats have been hotter of late. So one thing that I wanted to do before we get you set for our next segment, we're going to talk Rafael Devers, Willy Adames, Justin Verlander, three players in the midst of their first seasons in San Francisco. Devers and Adames obviously a part of the long-term big picture equation for the San Francisco Giants, but Verlander, in all likelihood, headed elsewhere, if not headed to retirement at the end of his age 42 season after picking up win number 265 yesterday. I do want to give you the lineup for today's ball game for San Francisco. Elliot Ramos leading things off. He's out in left field, 16 homers, 58 runs driven in for Ramos, a 268 average, and a 749 OPS for the left fielder who was an all-star in 2024, ended that long drought of the Giants not having a homegrown all-star. Chili Davis was the last one in the outfield, 1986, and the Giants had gone nearly 40 years without one. Rafael Devers will hit second for this ball club, a home run out to dead center field at Oracle yesterday, 28 homers, 13 in a Giants uniform, 93 runs driven in, 262 average, and 865 OPS for Devers. Willy Adames hits third. He's been one of baseball's best shortstops since the start of May. Adames, 25 homers, 72 driven in, 8 stolen bases, a 228 average, and a 737 OPS. Dominic Smith, the cleanup man, 4 homers this season, one on Friday night, a splash hit against the Baltimore Orioles, and one coming earlier this season at Coors Field against the Rockies out in the right field seats. He's driven in 28, a contact hitter, the former first-round draft pick of the New York Mets way back in 2013, has a 283 average and a 750 OPS. Matt Chapman will hit third and bat fifth will play third and bat fifth for the San Francisco Giants today. Chapman, 18 homers, 50 runs batted in, 9 stolen bases, a 231 average, and a 771 OPS. Been hampered a little bit during the second half by the hand injury that wiped out a decent chunk of his first half of the season that he suffered in June, diving back into first base, but nevertheless, hoping to get back on track in the final month of the season. Jung-Hoo Lee hit sixth. Lee hitting the ball much better in the second half of the season than he did really from May to June, where he took a huge downturn offensively after just a lights-out April at the plate. 7 homers for Lee, 48 runs batted in, 10 stolen bases, 259 average, and a 727 OPS for Jung-Hoo Lee. Casey Schmidt will hit 7th today for the Giants, back in the lineup after the day off yesterday. Christian Koss played second base. 9 homers for Schmidt, 31 batted in, 239 average, and a 709 OPS. Those numbers have been slipping a little bit. The Giants would like to see those come up so that they can feel confident about second base headed into next season. Patrick Bailey, the switch-hitting catcher, batting from the left side today against Chase Dollander. He will hit 8th for the Giants. 2 homers, 39 runs batted in, a 208 average, and a 557 OPS for Bailey. And then rounding out the order for San Francisco, fresh off his first 3-hit ball game as a major leaguer, it's Drew Gilbert, who got the Gatorade shower yesterday from Willy Adames following the 3-hit performance in the big win over the Baltimore Orioles. Gilbert, 1 home run, 7 batted in, a 190 average. That number came up a lot yesterday with the 3 hits and a 571 OPS. The player who's obviously missing from today's lineup, Luis Matos, just getting a day off. Giants trying to manage his workload a little bit, but he will play just about every game down the stretch for this ball club, as there's about 25 to go for this team. You've got 3 this week against the Colorado Rockies. That all starts today at 1:10 p.m. Pacific time. Then 3 in St. Louis against the Cardinals before the Giants return home next week for a 6-game homestand. They're alternating 6 games on the road, 6 at home, 7 on the road, including a 4-game set at Dodger Stadium. That will be their final road series of the season, and the Giants will wrap things up with 6 more at home at Oracle Park. Before we go to a commercial break, just a few more transactions to tell you about around Major League Baseball. Walker Buehler, who was let go earlier this week by the Boston Red Sox, he has signed a deal with the Philadelphia Phillies to join that ball club. Not clear if it's a major league or a minor league transaction just yet, but nevertheless, Walker Buehler, former Dodgers pitcher, will be eligible to pitch for the Phillies in the postseason. And Andrew Heaney, formerly of the Pittsburgh Pirates, he was granted his release. He has joined the Dodgers organization and will start at AAA Sacramento for the Dodgers affiliate in AAA Oklahoma City. Anytime I say AAA, I always say AAA Sacramento, but AAA Oklahoma City in the Dodgers organization. Giants brought up 2 players for September call-ups today. Grant McCray comes up to add some speed and some outfield versatility, and JT Brubaker comes up to help the bullpen. Former Yankees pitcher who had a nice year out of their bullpen, and former Pittsburgh Pirates starter JT Brubaker joins the ball club, with Randy Rodriguez being transferred to the 60-day IL. More on Rafael Devers, Willie Adames, and Justin Verlander when we come back right here on The Sports Leader.
It's almost time for hot dogs, peanuts, cold beers, and orange and black baseball. Our Giants warm-up rolls on the sports leader.
Oh, we are back. Good morning, folks. Kerry, Crowley hanging out with you, getting you set for Giants baseball on the radio. First pitch coming your way this afternoon, 1:10 p.m. Pacific time, 2:10 local time out in Coors Field. As the Giants look to get back to 500, they're sitting at 68 and 69 on the season. They've won 7 of their last 8 ball games. They are not yet back in the playoff picture, but a series against the Colorado Rockies sure can help. They take 2 of 3. They would deal the Colorado Rockies their 99th and 100th losses of the season. They sweep the series, which they really need to do. Then they would potentially vault themselves back into a playoff race if the New York Mets falter this week. The Mets have a tough schedule the rest of the way. The Giants have things a little bit easier, but they are playing a bunch of games against teams in the mix. 6 against the St. Louis Cardinals, 6 against the Arizona Diamondbacks, 6 against the Los Angeles Dodgers, who are far more than in the mix. The Dodgers are going to the postseason. So what does that say about this Giants ball club? Well, for much of the summer, it was a disappointing slate. This team could not hit. This team suffered pitching injuries. This team could not field. And this team fell out of the playoff race altogether. A brutal homestand at the end of July ultimately compelled Buster Posey, who was oh so aggressive early in the season, to trade assets away at the deadline. July 31st, the Giants had sent out Tyler Rogers, Camilo Doval, and Mike Yastrzemski, recovered prospects in return, and begun to shift their focus to next season. But one of the most important things that the Giants were hoping to see throughout the month of August was the continued acclamation of superstar Rafael Devers, who came over in the big deal from the Boston Red Sox in the middle of June and almost immediately struggled out of the gates. After the Devers acquisition, for about a month and a half, 2 months, the Giants were the single worst team in Major League Baseball. The White Sox are terrible on an annual basis. The Rockies are headed toward 100 losses. The Pirates can't win on the road if their season depended on it. The Marlins, there are so many teams that have just been out of the race from the beginning of the season. I could go on and on. But it was the San Francisco Giants who, for 2 months after the Devers trade, had the worst record in Major League Baseball. A lot of folks were pointing to Devers as the reason. The Red Sox were getting better. The Giants were getting worse. Devers was discontent in the Red Sox clubhouse. Suddenly, the Giants, who'd had such a great run all season long, had fallen apart. It had to be Devers' fault. I never bought that argument. I never for 1 minute believed that this outstanding left-handed hitter, who seemed so happy to be in San Francisco, was going to be the downfall of this ball club. If you look around, Devers wasn't playing defense when the Giants suddenly lost the ability to field fly balls. Devers wasn't on the mound when the Giants' pitching staff was decimated by injuries. Verlander going out, Landon Roop going down, Hayden Birdsong, not injured, but ineffective, had to be sent back to AAA Sacramento, and Kyle Harrison, one of the guys the Giants were counting on this season. Oh, by the way, he was traded to go get Rafael Devers, a deal that I think every general manager in baseball, if they had the payroll flexibility and the ownership sign-off, would do that deal. And you look up at the end of August, and you see a Giants team that's starting to play better baseball, and you see a hitter in Rafael Devers, who certainly looks like he's getting accustomed to playing at Oracle Park. The swings you saw during this homestand against the Cubs and the Orioles suggest that Devers will be just fine. That Devers, who, by the way, during the second half of the season, has a .278 average, a .543 slugging percentage, and a .917 OPS, the Devers is going to lift up the Giants and not bring down the Giants. To me, it was never a question. Buster Posey doesn't make that deal. With Devers having 8.5 years and $250 million plus left on his contract, he isn't absolutely certain that Devers will be a net positive for this team. And while the Giants struggled out of the gates following the Devers acquisition, well, Devers struggled out of the gates. He had some rough swings, a lot of strikeouts, too many whiffs. He has finally figured out how to hit at Oracle Park. He's going the other way with the ball. He's hitting the ball in the air, and he's hitting the ball over the fence, which is all anyone ever thought he would do when the Giants acquired him in that blockbuster trade, the stunning trade in mid-June from the Boston Red Sox. So Devers in a Giants uniform in the second half of the season. 7 doubles, 11 home runs, 25 runs driven in, 22 walks, the ability to get on base, and the ability to be a difference maker. And all the while, Devers has done this with Willy Adames right by his side, doing exactly what the Giants anticipated when they acquired Adames via free agency. At the end of April, Adames was one of the worst qualified hitters in Major League Baseball. He had a .592 OPS. He couldn't figure it out at the plate, and he looked like a bust. But you don't judge a player who signs a 7-year contract based on 1 month in a new environment. Adames has played pretty much all of his Major League career, his home games, indoors with the Tampa Bay Rays and the Milwaukee Brewers. He comes to San Francisco. It's a completely different environment. It's cold out there. It's foggy. The climate is different in San Francisco than it is for outdoor stadiums throughout the rest of the country, let alone the indoor stadiums that Adames has played 50% of his ball games in for the first half of his career. But since the end of April, so the vast majority of the season, Adames has been one of the most qualified shortstops in Major League Baseball, or best qualified shortstops, I should say. 23 home runs over the last 4 months for Willy Adames after hitting just 2 in the month of April. A .234 batting average. The Giants would sure like to see that number come up, but a .323 on-base percentage, that'll play. And perhaps the most encouraging sign, a .458 slug and a .781 OPS. Willy Adames has been great. Since the end of April, since he started to acclimate to Oracle Park and the challenges of playing in San Francisco, Adames has figured this thing out. And oh, by the way, after a rough first month on defense, in a year where I was questioning how long Adames might stick at shortstop for the San Francisco Giants over the duration of this 7-year contract, he has completely flipped the narrative. Adames is playing effective defense. He's manning the position extremely well. He's 10 outs above average on the season if you follow StatCast's defensive metric, and he has become a plus defender for a team that doesn't have too many of those. The Giants have played lackadaisical defense. The Giants have made far too many mistakes, but Willy Adames has not been at the center of any of it. And for the last month, it was Adames, it was Devers, and it was those two players figuring it out. If the Giants are going to do anything in the month of September to carry momentum into 2026, it's got to be their leaders. It's got to be their core players. It's got to be Adames. It's got to be Devers. It's got to be Matt Chapman, Jung-Hoo Lee, and Elliot Ramos figuring out how to win ball games effectively together, limiting mistakes, limiting swings and misses, putting the ball in play, making a lot of contact, hitting a ton of doubles, popping a few over the fence, and aiding this pitching staff that has been decimated by injuries. You know, it's interesting that the Giants went on this run, 7 wins in 8 games, because Landon Roop is out for the season. Carson Wisenhunt is headed to the IL with a back strain. Hayden Birdsong, ineffective, toiling in AAA Sacramento. Kyle Harrison pitching the Boston Red Sox organization now. All the pitchers who were supposed to save the Giants at the outset of this season, well, they've all kind of disappeared. And yet, on Sunday, Justin Verlander shows up, and at 42 years old, in 5 innings, goes 121 pitches. Verlander was pitching for one thing and one thing only. It was to qualify for the win on a day when his offense finally supported him. He spent the first 2 months of the season toiling, bullpen letting him down, offense giving him no run support, turning in quality starts only to get no decisions and hard luck losses. But Verlander finally broke through on a muggy day in June in Atlanta. In his 17th start of the year, he picked up win number 1, win number 263 in his Major League career. And the last homestand, he picked up 2 more. 264 on Tuesday against the Chicago Cubs and 265 yesterday against the Baltimore Orioles. Justin Verlander had to fight tooth and nail for all 15 outs required of a starting pitcher to qualify for the win, and he did just that. At 42 years old, he's still reaching back and throwing 96, 97 miles an hour, still throwing 4 effective pitches, and still proving that he can inch closer and closer to that 300-win milestone that's out of reach for just about every other pitcher in Major League Baseball. So while much of the summer has been spent focusing on all the negative developments for the San Francisco Giants, the collapse, the downfall, all the reasons this team found itself in the month of August playing for nothing more than pride and a little bit of momentum, there are some positives to take away from this most recent stretch of Giants baseball. Devers and Adames looking more comfortable in San Francisco. That's the key to the next 6 years of Giants baseball. Justin Verlander saving the bullpen, winning games. It's what Buster Posey wanted to see way back when he gave him that 1-year, $15 million deal. And as these young Giants pitchers start to fade, it is interesting to me that at 42 years old, Justin Verlander has emerged as Mr. Reliable, and it begs the question, would the Giants be better off bringing Verlander back next season? Another one-year deal, trying to win with a guy who in 75, 80% of his starts has kept the team competitive. It's not what you want from a number one or a number two. You want to be competitive about 90, 95% of the time. Robbie Ray and Logan Webb have done that for this team. But Justin Verlander, in my opinion, he'd do a whole lot worse at the back end of your rotation. If Landon Roop comes back healthy, the Giants get any sort of development from a Birdsong or a Whisenhunt, maybe you can plug Justin Verlander back as a number 4 or number 5. And maybe if the offense decides to support him the way that they've done the past 2 ball games, he might inch a heck of a lot closer to that 300-win milestone that he wanted to progress toward for so much of this season. The Giants essentially failed him in that effort. I'm Kerry Crowley. The show is Giants Warm-Up. Would love your thoughts on Justin Verlander, on Willy Adames, on Rafael Devers. When we come back, we'll take a look at scores around Major League Baseball from Sunday's action and how they impact the postseason race right here on KNBR, the sports leader.